Mine heritage empowering mind.
So when we talk about self-knowledge, what exactly are we talking about? It's not your name, it's not your title, it's not your religion or your background or your clan or no. When somebody says Albert, or when you say I know me, I know who I am, as that song goes, do you actually know who you are? Because it starts from knowing the thoughts, the feelings, which go to the actions. Not so. Let's look at, before you go to this, you cannot change something you don't know. There are some myths that have hindered us from knowing ourselves when it comes to our self-knowledge. The first one is that I have no control over my emotions. You've heard of people saying, oh, when something happens, like, I don't know, it was out of control. Saying that you have no control over your emotions is a lie. The challenge is that you do not know your emotions. So you cannot have control over something you do not know. So the first thing is we need to first know our emotions. Can you name the emotion? Can you look at somebody? Oh, when you are frowning, how do you look? Right? We normally SMS those emojis to people. Happy, you send like an SMS, like a happy emotion. But what does it actually mean? For example, when you say, I am angry, what do you exactly mean?
Maybe
You're unhappy?
extremely.
Extremely. So why don't you say I'm extremely angry? Some people just say, I'm just not feeling fine. Yeah, that coward just. What do you mean by just? Small quantity. Now, for you to be able to understand self, you need to have conjunctions. Because I'm angry because. Now you know the cause. Right? Somebody will say, I'm just angry. You cannot be just angry. There is something that is making you angry. Things that help us understand who we are is if we go back to the conjunctions. I am angry because. Now you're going back to the cause. I am angry about. You're going to explain it in detail. Not just going to tell somebody, I am angry, or I am happy, I'm frustrated. There should be a reason. It's like people whom we greet. Hi, hi. That's emotional ignorance. Because you do not know. Or somebody says, thank you. For what? But the person who stays back and says, thank you because actually I wouldn't have found that place if you hadn't directed me. It's emotionally intelligent. Because he's giving you the feeling, and that simply means that they have understood the feeling of how they feel, and now they're trying to share it. You can also use that. Use it in your own conjunction. That means you're alluding or you're clearly picking out something that has caused you to feel either positive or negative. And some of these emotions, and as we move on, people say you may categorize them as negative and positive, but thinking makes them so. If you say fear or anxiety, it's a positive anxiety. Many of us work best when we are a little bit anxious, right? For example, when you look at the anxiety curve, it's like this. This is positive. When it goes down, it's negative. But at the peak here, for you, what you think is negative and positive is what somebody else needs. You have a report and you're fearing the deadline, you work and excel at it. If that wasn't the deadline, you wouldn't have become anxious and worked on it. You keep procrastinating, you see? So thinking makes it. Now the second myth is that that human beings are always self-aware. For me, because I teach or I understood maybe emotional intelligence, I'm always self-aware of my emotions. No, it is a lie. They're like waves. Now you are, the next time you are not. You're there unconsciously, you shout at somebody, but you catch yourself. You're like, okay, I see it coming, or I've done it. Now you come back to console or to correct it. So you're saying that you're always self-aware of your emotions or thoughts. It's a cliche. But the difference is not what happens to you, but how you respond after what has happened. If I catch myself that I'm arguing or I'm shouting, And all of a sudden in the process, I'm like, I'm going overboard. It has already happened, but now I have caught it. You may even catch it after it has happened. I've already slapped you. And when I move, I'm like, I've slapped. Now I come back to console you or to score. Today, truth be told, our words don't mean what we're trying to express. You meet somebody and tell you, I don't feel fine, and you're like, you'll be okay. But what is the feeling? When you tell me you feel uncertain, tell me the feeling. But the challenge we have is that when we are trying to explain how we feel, we're not explaining the moment. If you may like. Now you're telling me I feel peaceful because I can see. Are you sleeping at the moment? Now are you sleeping? So you're tapping on your previous peaceful moment you had to explain your current peaceful moment, which is a lie. Are you guys with me? So can you tell me now, when I come and ask you, how are you feeling? Don't tap past, don't tap on the future. Tap at it now. I am anxious, right? I'm supposed to have a discussion with Aaron. I want to have a conversation with Aaron. And he had told me we'll get here at around 6. And it's live. And have an audience that is waiting. Right? Now 5:55. Definitely I'm anxious at the moment. And when somebody asks me, how are you feeling? I'll just say I'm anxious. I may not say anxious, I'll say I'm worried. Not so. Or somebody, that is if I'm conscious enough. If you walk in and you're like, hey Gardner, how are you? I'll be like, I'm fine, I'm okay. Am I defining how I'm feeling at the moment? Definitely not. Now, if I am feeling anxious about, I'll be like, you ask me, how are you feeling? I'm like, I'm a little bit anxious. Aaron is not coming. You see how you understand the situation I mean? Aaron is not coming. Then Aaron, all of a sudden, 59 drops in. Before the guy says a very warm welcome, Aaron comes and is like, how are you? I'm like, man, I was a little anxious, but now you're here. I think I'm going to calm down. You see how you're understanding me? Because I've pulled from the past, now I'm telling you how I'm feeling at the moment that we don't normally do. But we're human beings. Routine and habits come. Now you find even when the landlord has thrown you out of the house, or when you even don't have transport. Now to put it in the nowness, that's why I said we have to use conjunctions. When you understand that after you've said, you've known or you've named the emotion, you have to come back at the conjunction, explaining that emotion. Somebody will hear you. And somebody will know that actually this person knows themselves. They know how they feel and they know how they feel. Remember we said that 10% is what we say. 80% is how we say, how we feel about what we're saying. I think I did that visit like yesterday. Let me post it on the group. Most of us don't say what we mean, right? But now you tell me that, even the way you're saying it, I'll look at you and I feel it's coming from deep inside you. Because it's now, you're not tapping on anything. You're telling me how exactly you're feeling at the moment. So our words speak to us, and they show us, or they show somebody how knowledgeable they are about themselves. That's why you meet people and you're like, that is so conscious. Because he speaks in the nowness. Or if you say something, he will presume that what he's saying you do not know it. Now he comes to explain it so that you get to know it. And that's where self-knowledge starts. From the words we speak to. And those are the words we speak out. It doesn't have to be vague. It has to be more or less practical. And some of the other things that we know, other tools that we can use to identify ourselves, you have to go back and ask yourself, what do I think about always? You cannot know what you think about always unless you catch yourself thinking. But what do you do always? If we are to study your pattern, your life patterns now, I'll find clues. And I'll tell you, Albert, you're like this. Because that's what you did yesterday, that's what you did the other day, that's what you may do maybe 2 days from now, but you do not know it. But it happens unconsciously, That's why they tell us human beings live crews. That's why you see FBI, you see ID, blah, 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 those NYPD, they'll track you and they'll get to know. Because of the habits. And that same habit is the same habit will come tomorrow. If you cannot catch it now, you still do it tomorrow. Remember I said you are products of habits. So you need to now understand what takes much of my time. Now you note it. And when does it happen? For example, like in public speaking, they'll tell you, catch your filler words. And you realize when you record yourself, you have more or less of, actually, but before, I never thought about it. Now you become conscious. You hear it coming. Before you speak it, you're like, no, you get another word. By the time you know it, you're changing your course. Self-knowledge. The second he talks about is self-management. You cannot, if you don't know, you cannot manage. And you cannot manage if you don't understand. Right? So what is self-management? So self-management, we're talking more or less about the triggers. The first myth when we talk about self-management is that, the first one is that one way of controlling your emotions, you need to suppress them. How many of us try to suppress emotions or thoughts? You cannot control something by suppressing it. What does it mean to suppress? Anything you suppress, you ignite. The simplest analogy. If you're trying to suppress happiness, you're igniting it. It's like if you're trying to become good, actually, you end up becoming bad. Because you're not going to do things based on how you feel. You're going to do things based on your reactions or on what you really want things to be. And actually, in the long run, somebody feels they're being suppressed. So you don't suppress a thing. The first thing you need to know it. And after knowing it, instead of suppressing, you can rename. If somebody says, I'm angry at you. I'm annoyed at you. You irritate me. Which sounds more negative? Yes, it sounds more negative because it's just a word. But presuming you're going back, putting a filler. When you say you're angry, anger means long term. You've generalized everything about me. Like somebody saying, Anna, I like you. Yeah, some faults of yours that I don't like, but I've not said them. And for you to say, hey, man, Gardner likes you. What exactly? So the things you're saying on top are the general ones. But in there are other things. So specificity has to be very important for you to manage something. Because if you say, I'm pissed, I'm angry at you, another one says, you know what, I'm pissed the way you talk at me. Maybe. Now you will know it is a piece of it that you don't like. But in somebody, most cases when you use these general words, we don't go back to sieve out exactly. And somebody takes it holistically, thinking that's how it is. Or that's what you've brought out to mean exactly what you want to say. The other misconception is that once I let out something, it's gone. Like somebody who says I cannot change the past. No, you can. You change how you react after what you've done. If I slap you, I'll come back and apologize and we square to settle. Haven't I changed? Haven't I remorseful? That's why we have forgiveness. So whenever a negative emotion comes in, or whenever somebody does something wrong, it's not to say that it is permanent. It's not permanent. It is how they react after that of which they have done. But how do you now go back to manage thyself? We said it's being seen, being understood, and being heard. Knowing, understanding, and managing. Now this is about you. When you change, automatically she will change. You know why? My actions and feelings will reflect who I am, and she will look at me in a different way. Have you ever seen somebody who has angered you? Or somebody you're fought with, or somebody you have a grievance with? When you all meet, you'll turn and you also turn. But if you smile and come and like, hey, what's up? This person will try to hide, to suppress it, right? But they'll still bring it out. They'll like feel or show that they're actually trying to feel in the way you are feeling. So more or less, we reflect who we are. If you're angry, when I look at you, I'll be angry as well. Unconsciously. Turn to each other. You're just doing this. I want you to turn and look at each other. Yeah. Chances are that you're talking to me like, chances are that you will smile or you will laugh. Why? It's contagious. If I walk to you when I'm angry, chances are even if you're angry, you will. It has happened at our workplace, or even in our ways as we move. When you meet somebody, have you ever seen somebody laughing and you also start laughing? You don't know what they are laughing at, but you also start laughing immediately. It's contagious. So when we're talking about self-management, it's not managing the other. You can't manage the other. The power you have is to manage thyself first. If you can manage yourself first, then means you're going to manage the other person. If I stick on to the past, it's going to affect the way I'm living now. Then if I'm living negatively now, even the person I'll be meeting will be negative. Because we never have any power to change the past. Neither do we have power to change the future. We project it, but we don't change it until it happens. So if you are angry at me because I did something way back, right? Actually, me who did the thing, I've moved on, most cases. It is you who's still harboring the anger. That when you look at me, you're not looking at me the way I am now. You're looking at me the way I was then. You've heard that saying that all men are what? Are dogs. So every man you will meet, you'll see a dog. Even the good ones. So are you living in the now? Even when the good one comes to you, you won't see the goodness because you're still trapped. It's more or less of forgiveness. It's not about the other, it's about you. And when you evaluate yourself, actually, we are hurt because either we didn't see the clues or the triggers, or we exposed ourselves so much that somebody took advantage of us. Now, forgiveness simply means go back and evaluate yourself. And when you evaluate yourself, it's like flipping the coin. You'll get to know, it was my fault. I shouldn't have done it like this. Or it started from here. Now you're starting to change. You're moving into transformation. You've now known, you're trying to manage because you've understood. Now, for you to be able to manage yourself, we need to go out and look for triggers. What's a trigger? A trigger is something that interests you to do something. Now, if you cannot, first of all, know that trigger, you cannot manage it. Now, for example, smokers. I'll start, then I come on alcohol. Not actually nicotine and tobacco and blah blah. It's the act. The act that triggers you to keep smoking or to get that cigarette. They got a fleet of so many smokers. They gave them their cigarettes and they're not doing the act. People were that dopamine was not being, that the feel good was not being produced in the brain. Yet the other person, they did not actually give him a cigarette. It was just a dummy and dopamine here. The feel good hormone. So that means this person, whenever he sees somebody doing this, the excitement, the feel good triggers him or pushes him to also go and get it. To feel, because the habit comes out of repetition, like your body gets to understand, to feel it. And every time you see it, the body wants it. But it's not the seeing, there is something. So, which one is your trigger? To manage something, you have to first get to know that. If it is your boss, what triggers them to be angry? So you cannot change anything if you do not know the trigger of it. Then also we fail to manage ourselves because, which comes back to authenticity. We seldomly feel or believe that actually we are better off who we are not, or better off based on what you see another person doing. And because you're seeing another person doing it, you don't know how they're managing it, so you want to own it. For example, when you go on the road, you see people, when you hear, I wish I can drive a Mercedes Benz. Huh? But the question is like, can you manage it? Maybe you've seen this guy driving, he has a UAA for years, and he tells you, Manang, these cars, you stay with, but do you know how he's managing it? Right? So authenticity comes in to say that actually, you first get to know, what can I manage? Is it possible? Can I do with it? Can I sustain it? Yes or no? If I can't sustain it, that means I do not know it. Trust me, the things we are failed to sustain are the things we do not. So we see mental disorders at their rise because we do not know what mental disorders are. How do you call a person with a mental disorder in your language? Aaron. So if I'm stressed, am I Mugwiraro? Am I Mularu? Now, the people who are going to manage mental disorders or mental health is not our generation. We do not have the vocabulary of mental disorders. Whoever was Molalu, right? So we couldn't manage self because we do not know what exactly it is. Now these young ones, we are teaching them, we have anxiety, we have those other words that I cannot even pronounce. We have that, we have all those are there. Now for them, they are getting the idea. It's okay. I can be anxious, but I can still be okay. You won't categorize me as a Mulalu. I can still go and seek help. I can be stressed. I can still go and seek help. I'm not Mulalu. I can be having, but for us, it has just fallen on us. So we do not have terms to manage because we don't have terms to know. We generalized everything as Mulalu. So if you cannot understand it, then you cannot manage it. That's the challenge we have. And understanding comes from knowing. If you do not know it. Now if you know it, you get to know that this is my trigger. I'll go and see cold glasses with sweating bubbles on the side, but I won't, because I'll be like, that's funny. Triggering me to take some beer, but I won't, because I know. Yet when I did not know, I would rush. So it's very good to know the trigger because it helps you to manage. Some of the other things that we can, when it comes to AI, emotional intelligence, is that self-management also has a lot triggers authenticity. Now this is sleep, actual lifestyle. The way I show up at work and the way you look at me is directly proportional to these things. Have you ever slept out late and you go to work? Everybody will see you. It's like a Tuesday, like, why did you sleep? Are you okay? If it's a Saturday, that is normal business. Right? And we very well know that sleep is very minimum. If you are, I would urge you to go out and look for another book. So if you love reading, it's called Why We Sleep. shows you the importance of sleep.
color so
Do you know why most people will get, in our generation, by the time they get to 40 or 50, they'll have memory loss as a disease or as a disorder?
we've sown. My inheritance.
Limited sleep.
Shadow, there's a canvas to paint.
Because when you sleep, the brain registers and keeps everything that your five senses has fed it with during your time of consciousness. Now, it is that time that the brain muscle, the storage muscle, is being exercised. Your subconscious is awake when your conscious is asleep. That's why you see kids learn too much when they are asleep. Their subconscious is awake. Now, whatever music you're playing, whatever words you're saying, they are listening now for them. Yet when they are awake, their concentration is just observation. They listen less. So they tell you, if a child is less than 5 years, don't tell them. Show them. They'll understand better. And if you want to tell them when they are sleeping. That's why they sleep during the day, so many hours during the day. And for you during the day, that's when you're talking, you're putting movies, the maids are putting wicked day, those funny things. For them, they are recording. Now, sleep is very important because it affects how you show up, how you feel, and how you think. Lifestyle. You can go to the gym, as I normally see people doing. They are running, they're in the gym, they're exercising, but after the gym, somebody is carrying a very cold bottle of Coca-Cola. He has run like 10 kilometers. You can be so healthy, follows those health habits, but if your lifestyle is not proportional to, wasting your time.
Just hold on to the rhythm.
And your lifestyle affects the way you're seen, being understood, and being heard.
With unity